Yeah. Feels like one of those horror movies where somebody goes down the hall and then they get separated and somebody else. Yeah. Right. Well, you notice it was the men and women all stayed together with a herd, taking care of each other. Oh, yeah. Is Nick not sending them up? Okay, okay. Come on in. Nobody bites. We'll send the sign-in sheet to you if you sit down with us.
You get to pretend to be the freaking council people. Yeah, I'm the mayor today.
Welcome.
Oh, there we go. That's better. Good.
Comment on. There is a sign-in sheet that's on a clipboard. It'll probably come to you after you. Yeah.
There are people.
Waiter.
That's true. Yeah. Get your people here, Amber.
Hello. Hello. That's fine. It's fine if they there.
Erica, can we just pass the sign out sheet around to people?
Yeah. I think it's in the
Someone's got it?
audience. They're
Perfect.
gonna keep going. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Need more. Welcome.
Come on in.
Come on in. Come on in. So excited. I feel like, it's like, do you know the show, Designated Survivor? I know the show. Okay. Well, if we
Oh, okay. And
really rupture the arts community. We've never been that many in the same room. This is monumentous for me. Yeah, let's get it started. Folks are seated and ready. We've got some folks on Zoom. Hello, you can hear us on Zoom? Yeah. You good, Tim and Cecilia? You can hear us?
I can hear as long as you're close to the mic.
Great. Well, if you can mute, we'll keep the noise at a minimum and we'll talk into the mics. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Should we remain muted?
Yes, please. Thank you. Yeah. So I'd like to just introduce myself and the rest of the folks sitting up here. I'm Amber Evans, and I've had the pleasure of managing our public art program for the city of Emeryville for the last 13 years. It's a 30-year program. We started the visual art grants the year before last, did a pilot, move forward under the advisement of the Public Art Committee on continuing those, raising the limit a little more, doing much more outreach. In the interim, the Rotten City Cultural District was funded for the next 2 years with almost $700,000. That's going back out into the community, and we've hired ABG Art and District Works to help us with that effort. So you'll see more people in the room now because that outreach is being extended and will be part of a whole series of events and activities that they'll be able to tell you more about. I'm just so excited. I'm introducing it. And to my left is Rebecca, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Thank you, Amber. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here today. My name is Rebecca Sermeno. I'm the Community Services Director, and I oversee the Community Promotion Grants, which we'll get into more detail about in a few minutes. So thank you all for being here.
And I should say that I'm specifically the contact for the visual art grants, unlike Rebecca, who looks a little like me, who is the Community Promotions Grants. One of the things we want to do is distinguish ourselves.
I'll turn the mic on. My name is Trent. I'm one of the partners with ABG Art Group. We know a lot of you in here. Thank you all for coming. Yeah, I'll pass it to Sorrel.
Morning. My name is Sorrel Reynaud-Sway. I'm director of ABG Art Group, here with my partners Trent and Erica, who's over there. We're really excited to be here today to help spread the word about the visual arts grants and the community promotion grants for the city of Emeryville. We're also going to tell you a bit about the Rotten City Cultural District work that we're going to be doing over the next 2 years. So today we're really going to focus on the grants that are at hand right now. But we want to do a bit of a vision cast for the things that we have coming up for the next 2 years. So,
That's Erica.
yes,
And she'll be running the show.
yes, Erica does everything. All right. So, wanted to just introduce myself real quick and the Rotten City Cultural District and what we're going to be doing there. As I said, there's these 2 grants that are happening now, the visual arts grants and the community promotion grants. And the goal of today is to really just talk through that process, let you know how to apply, give application support, and raise awareness around these grants so that everybody has an opportunity to apply. But we also, like I said, want to talk about the Rotten City Cultural District. So to do that effectively, we want to just show some imagery and things about what we're going to do over the next 2 years. And I'll just give a really quick overview of that, and then we'll jump into the grants. So Rotten City Cultural District is a 2-year program that Amber and Rebecca are heading, and we are the consultants on the program in partnership with District Works. So we have 2 members from District Works in the back over here. They are our partners in the program. District Works is a full operation of support, of logistics, so they're going to help with all of the events and a lot of different aspects of this program. Just a little bit about us. I know a lot of you, but some of you don't know us. ABG Art Group and District Works, like I said, are going to be helming this program. You can just keep going down, Erica, if you don't mind. That's us. So we've been in public art and in community service for a long time. I started as a gallery. We were the cultural strategist in government for the city of Oakland last year. Doing education platforms for the city, helping artists understand how to work with the city. We've got a decades plus experience in public art production and in exhibition production. So these are all really relevant experience that we have, that we bring to the table to help partner with you and with the city of Emeryville for the next 2 years. The Cultural Strategist in Government program, which some of the artists here today were part of, was a really effective program training artists to work with the city, how to apply, do RFQs, RFPs, really work on their professional standards and expertise. So we've been doing that for the last year in Oakland, and we're excited to bring some of those education platforms here to Emeryville and expand on that program. Public art, just quickly, as I said, we've been doing public art for a long time in the Bay Area. I have a ton of experience in murals, obviously large-scale productions, and in more unique mediums as well. Just trying different things, always trying to innovate and expand on what artists can do. And art exhibitions, as I said, we started as a galleries and doing pop-up exhibitions as well. So there's a real exhibition arm of this next 2 years with Emeryville that we want to bring that exhibition expertise and help all of you bring some new innovative ideas to life. These are just some examples of different exhibitions and site makeovers, vacant spaces that we activated through art and cultural activity. From the District Works team, Andrew Jones, Tanisha Jackson, and Steve Schneiders are the leaders of District Works. They're not here today, but their representatives are here. And they have, as I said, a full support team that's really going to help with all the logistics and infrastructure to support these events and all these happenings in Emeryville over the next 2 years. And just a quick overview of the things we're going to be doing in the Rotten City Cultural District over the next 2 years. So 24 unique monthly events within the city of Emeryville. So those will be a smaller budget, but more constant, educational, exhibition, art gallery focused, a lot of different things. So if you're an artist in Emeryville, we want to hear from you. We want to talk about ideas. These are all going to be funded exhibitions. So we're looking for city partners. Please come in. And artists that have innovative ideas that want to do something, and we want to work with you and hear all about that. There's going to be 4 major exhibitions or events that we're calling marquee events. So that's 2 a year. Those will be kind of larger, kind of more major events, and those will obviously have a bit more planning to them, but those should be very impactful. We haven't figured out exactly what they're going to be, but we've talked about art fairs and block parties and various other things. So we'd really love to hear from all of you, different ideas and different things that you have done in the past, what you've seen work in Emeryville, what hasn't. We're really here to learn from all of you and start planning for the next 2 years. There's going to be one major public art installation. And most importantly, I think, is the full kind of brand package infrastructure for the Rotten City Cultural District. So we're going to be building a website, new branding, artist databases, location databases, signage, updating the public art maps, all these types of things. So the goal is to really provide a lot of infrastructure for the arts community so that the Rotten City Cultural District has a really strong identity and a portal that people can come to the city, know where cultural things are happening, know where artists are, know where art events are. Artists can engage with the city easier. The city has resources to look at artists profiles, intersect all of those things. So we're gonna spend a lot of time on branding, development, and infrastructure for the arts community. So that's a big part of the goal, building the infrastructure. Conceptual development and design, establishing concepts, activation, events, artist opportunities, venue and site databases, and launching promotional campaigns and social media channels. So a lot's going into the branding, visibility, development of the cultural district. That's something that we'll be working on heavily. The initial artist activations are kind of what we're doing now, right? Like we want to meet with all of you, hear from all of you, talk about what the opportunities are in the cultural district, what ideas you might have, and engage with all of you to learn and set the stage for continued success over the next 2 years. Go down there, okay. And that's it. So that's the Rotten City Cultural District over the next 2 years. So I just wanted to give a quick vision of that, who we are, the expertise that we have, and why we're here. I also just wanted to note that we're an Oakland-based organization, but I grew up in Emeryville. I went to public schools here. My parents live here, so I'm not unknown to Emeryville, and we're not outsiders coming in trying to rewrite everything. You know, we're from Emeryville, and we want to build with all of you here. Okay, so that's Rotten City Cultural District. Now, aside from that, the visual arts grants and the community promotion grants are what we're here for today. This is outside of the cultural district work that we're doing, but this is what we want to really dig into today. So the visual arts grants are $50,000 available, a minimum of $3,000 and up to $17,500 per awarded grant. Eligible users are arts organizations and individuals. So individual artists are encouraged to apply. You don't have to be in an organization. Can you go back? I didn't finish talking about that. So eligible uses, art installations in any media. So that's huge, right? You don't have to be a painter or a sculptor. There's lots of different mediums, and all of you are encouraged to apply. Must be in place for a minimum of 2 years. Must be original work, and may be installed on pre-selected sites or another location. So the city's already identified a bunch of sites that they have targeted, that they've already worked out. And there's many other sites as well. So you don't have to use those sites, but those sites are potentially available. You must have the property owner's letter of support to apply. So that's for the visual arts grant. There's two grants that we're talking about here. The community promotions grant, this is a separate grant. Again, arts and cultural organizations and individuals can apply. And the grants will be made up to 10,000. There's no minimum size, but there's a $75,000 pool available. So up to $10,000 grants for the community promotions grant. The events or program must be in Emeryville. And the uses include literary, video and film, culinary, historic, and performing arts, and other events of benefit to the community. So the visual arts grants is obviously more visual arts focused. The community promotions grant is really wide open in terms of, dance, theater, poetry, historic, culinary, it's a really broad range of opportunities there in the community promotions grant.
You can apply for both and use them in concert if you have separate elements within each of them.
Great. Yeah. Yeah,
And
fashion.
decide if it's an installation or if it's an event, and then you pick your funding accordingly. But yes, it's eligible. Textile arts are lots of fun.
Fashion is art. Fashion is welcome. So as I said, for the visual arts grants, there's some pre-selected properties. So we wanted to just show you some of those. This is the ECCL pool room on 47th Street. East wall proposed for installations. Small utilities must remain. Installation could stretch to the adjacent wall. And it's an interior room with exposure to exterior air and pool conditions, and juveniles requiring durable solutions as they run around and make havoc. The exterior pool in the same building, if you guys aren't familiar with the Emeryville Community Center, it's just on San Pablo there. The pool area, available building facade, hung works possible. I think there's lots of possibilities in the pool area. The Emeryville Senior Center, the Clock Nook, it's 9 inches deep and 60 inches wide. The Emeryville Senior Center, outdoor seating. This is on Salem Street. Site's got architectural features that have to be considered into the work. The grant could offer an artist a unique opportunity to design and construct seating ideal for the many seniors who use the facility. Compliance would be necessary, ADA compliance. The Rising Sun, this is a private building, partially in Emeryville on San Pablo Ave. I'm sure you guys all know it. The available wall is 50 feet wide by 12 to 24 feet, depending on if you do the whole wall or not. Windows, doors, and gutters and vertical piping kind of complicate the site, but for all you muralists out there, it's not impossible. And the EBI, the Escuela Bilingual Internacional, I don't know if I said that right, but I know that school. It's a school on San Pablo. Schools to install 5 bollards as pictured along public right-of-way in San Pablo. Artists can propose adorning all in a single repeating image or a series of related images. So that's cool. And Emory Tech, another private building on 65th. The site may be prone to graffiti, but it's a gateway location to the city. Access is complicated by the proximity to the rail line, and mural installation may require UPP permitting. But that's another great site. And fire station number 34, that's on Powell Street, owned and maintained by the city of Emeryville, Alameda County Fire Department. Seeks a site-specific mural on the face of the building facing Powell Street. That's great. Could include the arch. Flow Toys, another private site on Doyle Street. Exterior eastern wall includes a roll-up door fronting Doyle Street portion of the northern Emeryville Greenway. So that's another great site. And the Planted Design, 63rd Street, exterior wall. Wall includes a roll-up door and windows and doors. And the Hollis facade on 67th. This wall gets hit with graffiti pretty regularly, but it's a gateway to the north end of the city, adjacent to several of the new murals in Emeryville. And the Stanford facade, the building fronts a portion of the Emeryville Greenway, just southwest for Elledew Park and northeast of Horton Landing Park. It's a great site as well. So just to take a quick step, yeah, go ahead, Emery.
Before we
Yeah.
transition, I just wanted to say I've seen people taking a lot of pictures of these. All of these sites are within the application itself. You could pull up this sheet and see these. What is not in there is the contact information for the people managing those sites. My email is on the website, in the application. I can provide you for those private sites. I can provide you that information. Just ask me who you need, or I can send you the set. For the first sites, and including the fire station that were shown that were public sites, Rebecca is, in addition to being the contact for the community promotion grants, also for the visual art grants, those public sites, the first point of contact, because they're rec facilities. She's the director of the rec department. With that.
Great. I want to add something real quick. So on those sites, what the city has done is taken out some of the legwork. We would still need permission from the owner. It's just a first foot in the door with building owners that say, like, we would be interested, and they have an idea. But you can very much go do your own legwork. If you have another building, we can still facilitate that.
And this reminds me that part of the reason that the city did this was that in our pilot, we found that we got, 20 calls. People were interested in the grant, 4 applied. They couldn't find the sites, right? They couldn't get somebody who could write a letter of support, have it in their application before the deadline. So that is the time crunch on this application. In addition to your sketch, there's also, where's this going to be? So Packard, you had a question? It is possible that would happen. This is new for us to try and do this, so we don't know if they'll talk to a couple artists and say, hey, get me a sketch by the 15th. I'm only going to do one of these. Or if they might say, hey, I'm interested in 3 of these. They all would be cool. I just want to see the one that's most likely to be competitive. And we haven't talked that through with the property owners, so they may have their own decisions about that, and they may start to ask me questions as well, and we'll talk that through.
Yes, you had a question?
Oh,
okay.
It is expected that the artist would submit the application, and the property owner or tenants, or both if possible, would be submitting letters of support for that. Which site are you at? Welcome. So for the visual art grant, there's actually a form that has some pretty specific, and we'll go through it. And it's only if you're not using that form that you would use a letter that says, I've seen the sketch, I endorse its installation on my property. And if I've talked to my tenant, they also agree, that's a great line to add. If I talk to the neighbor that's facing the building, we'll talk a little bit about how we need to talk to neighbors, and there's a separate form for that. But depending on where you're at, some of that can happen after the application, but as much as you can do before is appreciated.
Right. Yeah, so that was a big list of sites, great sites, lots of opportunity there, funding from the city. This is a really unique opportunity. I think I've been a part of kind of city processes with public art, and it's pretty rare that a city would be releasing a grant program to try to fund artist installations and pre-select sites for you. So I feel like that's a really big lift on the side of Emeryville, and I really applaud that effort. I think that like you were saying, you want to identify a site as part of your application, but those aren't the only sites. So if there's another site that you have in mind, or you know a property owner, or you know somewhere in Emeryville that you'd like to propose an installation, it's wide open. So that's a bunch of sites for you that you can consider, but there's any other within the city of Emeryville. You just need to get that letter of support from the property owner in your application. All right, so the application requirements for both grants. The activity must occur in Emeryville. The program must benefit the Emeryville community, and you must provide the letter from the appropriate entity for the program or project, school, after-school program manager, park manager, for example. A nonprofit fiscal agent new to the 2024 process is not required. So you don't have to have a nonprofit attached to this application, although that can be of benefit to you sometimes if you need support in administration and in accounting and insurance. The nonprofits a fiscal agent can be a great help. So we're not discouraging that, but it's not required. Insurance is required, indemnifying the city from damages of $1 million per occurrence and $2 million aggregate for bodily injury, personal injury, and property damage, including without limitation blanket contractual liability for the duration of the contract. So I know that sounds like a really big, scary term, but it's not that serious. You know, those numbers, 1 million, 2 million, are pretty standard in insurance, and that doesn't mean that's going to cost you thousands of dollars. It's really, you know, maybe a cut $200-300 to meet that requirement. So don't be turned off or discouraged by that insurance requirement. So yes.
Yes, and we'll be discussing the requirements at the time of requisition on a later slide, but yeah, that is a good thing to point out.
Yes.
Specific dates. You do not need to do your insurance before you submit the grant. It is only if you are awarded a grant and we're in contract with you, we would need the insurance at the time of the grant, which might be in advance of your event, but you would know that you had.
So you should budget for it in your grant application, basically,
Right.
and then figure it out if you win.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The insurance requirement is for both grants. Okay. The visual arts grants application requirements. So this is just for the visual arts grants. The application requirements: narrative, application, budget, and sketch, the insurance affidavit, and the property letter of support or property affidavit, tenant and neighbors notification forms. So we'll talk about that a little bit later in the other slides, but that's the letter of support essentially. And the narrative, application, budget, and sketch, I mean, those are the documents that you have to submit on behalf of yourself in terms of what you want to do and explaining yourself and how you intend to do it. The implementation requirements are insurance, contract and billing, and permitting, and then your final report. So you have to submit to the city a final report on what you did, photo documentation, how it went, all of that. The recipient requirements. So if you win the grant, you will enter into a contract with the city for a term of 1 year for CPG and 2 years for VAG.
Cultural program grant, visual arts grant.
Yes, sorry, thank you. I should have noted that. Carry insurance with indemnification of the city and property owner. So that's the insurance, we just talked about it.
It is eligible to be covered by the grant, so.
Right. Right, that's, yeah, should note that the insurance can be part of your grant funding. You have to carry an Emeryville business license, also eligible for the grant cost, and submit a final report as to here, upon installation that reports on the financial process. So you have to submit a budgeting report for your project. You may be required to seek a building permit if triggered by risks of the installation. Murals do not require a permit. And you may need to seek an encroachment permit depending on the site. So those depend on what you're doing and where you're doing it. Fiscal agents. So as we said, you don't have to have a fiscal agent, but they can really be really beneficial to you. They typically charge between 7 and 11%. They may be free if you know them well, or a relative low cost, such as a membership fee, or charge a flat fee. The benefits of a fiscal agent: soliciting funds which are eligible for tax deductions to your donors. So if you work with a nonprofit on behalf of your project, you could win the Emeryville grant, but you could also fundraise from other sources, and the fiscal agent is a tax deductible write-off for that. So they can be a great vehicle of support for you to raise additional funds if you have a more ambitious idea. Accept automatic recurring monthly donations. So they're an entity that can just, fundraise and be a support system for you. Receive contribution funds via ETF. Process credit card donations, no additional credit card processing fees. Run a crowdfunding campaign with fundraising. Apply for grants and corporate sponsorships. So here's a list of a few. There's many others. So I'm sure everybody knows a nonprofit or two that they've been aligned with in the past. So, but these are ones that the city has worked with in the past. Again, it's not required, but we're just recommending it for facilitation of the grants. Okay, and the professional development opportunities. So we're going to do this again next week on the 13th, where we're going to just offer ourselves as a support system to get these applications done. So if anyone needs help with guidance, with uploading documents to the city's website, to just kind of understanding the whole process, that's going to be a bit of a work session. It'll be here next Tuesday from 5 to 7. So anybody that wants additional support for this process, you're encouraged to come. We'll have food and drinks again. There's food outside too, if you guys didn't see that. So that's next week. And I think now we want to just kind of dig into the process of applying for these grants on the city's website. So,
Maybe
yes.
city staff can throw in on here. This worksheet that's been pulled up is the same, really, except for a few minor points between the visual art grant and the community promotion grants. So we're really looking mostly to see, what do you expect the grant to fund? Maybe your thing costs more than we're writing and awards. You're telling us where those other funds are coming from. As we said, the insurance is something that can be put in here. We're expecting you to think through using this as kind of a hint about some of the things that might be included within it. And so if a building permit is, if you don't know what those costs are, you can talk to us about that is. If you don't know if your project would require that, you can talk to that. A mural won't, but attaching a dish that's hanging over from a second-story window in metal will. So understanding that it's by the nature of your work, whether we're going to be requiring that, and we will identify how you would work through that process.
You want to give as much detail as possible, especially with the budget, because the grant selection committee are not experts in this area, and they need as much detail to help determine their choices and what they're going to recommend to move forward with in both these areas. So the more information, the better, of breaking down how much everything costs them.
We are not asking for you to provide your insurance at the time of the application, but we are asking that you understand what the insurance is and that you're telling us that you're willing to do that. Because it's one of the things that we in the contracting just get mucked up on the most. And so part of us working with additional support is to help you get through that. But we can talk about brokers and who to go to. But we just want you to say, I got it. I know how I'm going to do this. The big attachment we miss between A and C is B, which for the visual art grants is the sketch. And so that's a very important in this application, which I have a note up here that reminds me to say that you cannot save once you've started an application. And this is a new process for us, so we're learning. We know that would be ideal to have it be saved. But so what you're really going to want to do is go to the application, get all those downloadables that we're going through, this insurance affidavit, the budget, fill that all out on your computer, have them saved as PDFs, have your sketch, have your letters of support, the things that are now you're going to be just PDFs that are all going to be attached to this application. You can look through it beforehand, but when you actually start writing in there, you want to have all of those ready to go in initially, and we'll show you where we're doing that. Let's just go through the attachments. We did want to say for the if you are just, when it says letter of support for the visual art grant, you can attach this attachment D, particularly if you're going to a pre-approved site, you're just filling this out, you're getting a signature on this. If you're going to another site, you may be filling out some information on here, you might be getting a letter of support. If you're talking to a school district on a school site and you need something from the school as well as the city, you might be adding additional letters of support in addition to this form. And there's space to do that in the application. And I said earlier that you're going to want to the extent that you can before you apply, talk to anybody who's like directly affected by your installation. We had a visual art grant that cast a shadow onto a building across. There needs to be a conversation that happens before the application about, is that going to work? And sometimes, you know, maybe there's a residential building. You're not going to talk to every resident, but on here, we want you to just explain that. And then within the narrative, talk about how you're going to maybe engage those residents, or you're going to do flyers, or how has anybody impacted by your work going to get notice ahead of time and be engaged by it, and facilitate that process.
Are we able to go to the city website? I think that would be helpful. So just to kind of recap what Amber's saying there, the application process is all done through the city's online portal. So you have to go onto the city's website, upload your application. This is the city's website here.
If you go one down,
Yeah, so this is the application page for the visual arts grants. They're due February 28th, so you got about 20 days. And you select which grant you're going for, etc. So like Amber was saying, it's not going to save for you. So you want to look at all the information, compile all your information, make sure you have everything ready. So when you upload your application, it's just done. Can you go back to the kind of landing page, Erica, so just people can see? So to complete the application, you need the following forms. Can you scroll down there a little bit? So you see there's the budget form, the insurance affidavit, the site selection, letter of support, notification of adjacent affected tenants. So these are all the documents that we were just looking at, and we'll take a closer look at each one. But just wanted to illustrate that you have to go to the city's site here. You have to prepare each one of those forms, as well as the other questions and things in your sketch and other items that are in the application, and upload all of them through the online portal. Is there any questions about that, or does that seem pretty clear? Yeah. I don't know.
We are clear that we would only award you one grant. It is possible that you could apply for multiple sites if you can get all of the materials for those separately. It's probably not the best vehicle for doing that, but it's certainly, if you have a very different idea for one or the other, and you're like, I'm not sure that this image is something that the selection committee would necessarily select. It's a high risk, high reward kind of proposal. And I've got this other one that I think is, I'm just not as excited about, but I think it would be more palatable in a broad public venue. You could, for example, submit both of those, and you might get that really exciting one, or it might be that more palatable kind of works it through. I think that's.
Darren, do you mean multiple different concepts on multiple different sites, or do you mean you're going to do a series of, say, paintings, and you want there to be one on 4 different locations, and that's like one proposal? Got it. Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can apply. You will only be awarded. You can only be awarded one.
I would also say, just in general, it's probably best to focus on one really good idea and not try to apply for 10 different things in the hope that you'll get one. I mean, if that's your strategy, no problem. But I think we want the best, clearest ideas that are the most fleshed out. There's someone on Zoom that has their hand raised. Can we?
Yes. Hi, I'm Cecilia. Are there any sites available for land art?
Meaning on.
Like
on the
freestanding
road.
sculptures.
We.
Not in that.
Not in the
Site plan?
pre-selected
Not in the
sites.
pre-selected.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There's definitely sites in Emeryville that could facilitate.
I'm doing better right now, but I'm
anyone
listening to
who-
Zoom.
Can you,
It actually has some
whoever, any
maybe
participants, can
money
you
for
go?
NIN
If
involved.
you can hear me and you're talking, can you mute
Yeah,
yourself?
it's for Emeryville, for the city of Emeryville, but they have like a
Rachel?
whole cultural art,
you mute?
cultural aspect. So there's visual arts grants, and then there's cultural arts grants. So it's
Rachel,
like activation that
Rachel,
happens in
please mute
Emeryville.
yourself.
It could be like you can choose your own location.
How was that happening?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you.
Because the art I create actually is regenerative art with and I use solar panels as part of the art that actually generates energy, clean energy for the community in case people want to use it to charge e-bikes or other things. So I just wanted to ask, maybe we could make that conversation somewhere else if if I can schedule an appointment with someone who can help me with it.
Yeah, I want to add something to that. Almost as a motivating thing for the artists. This is a really unique opportunity in that Emeryville is really putting all the pieces together. I'm sure this is your experience. None of you got into the arts to do admin work and figure out insurance and do all that, right? We're asking you to do that because really everything else that can be done is done here. Like a lot of cities, they're ready to go, but they don't have the bandwidth. We're hired here as extra city bandwidth. Use this as a resource to put together these proposals. So Cecilia, like we're happy to sit down with you outside of this and help you flush that out. Try to find a building or a landowner that you can do this with. But yeah, I mean, there's money there. There's a city that wants you to come get it. But there is a lot of legwork to do. Like they're identifying sites, but you all need to go knock on doors and get building ownership permission and talk to us. And we're happy to help you flesh out the concept and shoot some holes in it and give you guys critique. They've done these programs in the past, and like a lot of cities are just underwhelmed by the amount of proposals they're getting because it takes a lot of work to put together these well fleshed out proposals. So we're just kind of doing this as an invitation to all of you. Like it's ready for you. There's money here for you to do what you want to do. But now it's really on all of you to go tell us what you want and flesh it out and let's do it right. And if you don't have to have the fiscal sponsor, but you do have to cross your T's and dot your I's. So if you're not a part-time admin person, you should probably get some help because you are going to be required to do all that correctly. But yeah, I'm just like, we're excited. but it can all fall flat quickly because there's only like 20 days and there's a lot of work on you to do. So that's why we're doing this on the 13th, so that if you guys need some help pushing things over the edge, we're here. So I just, before we get back into the boring like application stuff, yeah, I just wanted to kind of say that to all of you. I think this is a cool time to take a leap and let us know what you are trying to make.
Also, that the deck that we went through with kind of like the requirements and the sites, that's going to be on the ABG Art Group website and our opportunities page. So if you want to refer to that, you can just kind of go through that if you need it for support. I think there was some questions over there. Did you have?
I think all you would need for that would be a letter or confirmation from the fiscal sponsor that they're willing to fiscally sponsor you. So it's saying like this nonprofit is, the money is going to be running through them. So they just need to kind of be attached to your application.
But it's also not required, right? So you can do your application, and then if you realize, and you win it and you want to bring on a fiscal agent, you can incorporate that later. Yeah. Got a question? We're going to start on the 13th, and if you need additional support there, we can get our contact info after today, and we'll be available. We'll make ourselves available. Yeah.
Yeah, if I can just do that, I think the Public Art Committee, thank you for coming to that meeting, often does a call with a theme, and this is intentionally different than that. The idea being that we in a city, on a committee, we have processes. They don't engender the most creative of experiences. What would be, and the PAC in developing its public art master plan talked about what would be a way to have artists just come up with their best idea. And we could see if we could make that happen. And so we're not really specific about media. We're not specific about, is it this experience or this message? We'd like to see what, without any hindrance, you can come up with, and we can be partners.
And that's one of the key items that I think makes this so rare and amazing, because typically most public art projects, most grants do come with some kind of theme or stakeholders or needs or desires of what they want. Here's a city with funding saying, we want great art and we want great applicants and we want you to do what you do and make it unique and make it special. So that's really, really exciting to me personally. This is the kind of projects that I love to see happen on behalf of artists. Do you have a question, Erica? Oh, yes.
Teresa? Therese?
Yeah, this is Therese, and I live in the Artist Co-op and across from the Emery and our new park and our beautiful bike bridge. And the neighborhood, since the construction of the Emery and the park and these bike routes and pedestrian routes and the bridge, it's really come alive as a pedestrian neighborhood, and you get to see your neighbors, and there's a lot of art, public art as part of the Emery. And I think you said that these grants are available for pop-up events that could bring community together. Am I right on that?
The community promotions grants, yes. The visual arts grants are for permanent to semi-permanent installations. The community promotions grants are for exactly that. They're for activations and events and different types of artistic endeavors.
Okay. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I certainly in site selection, has been, the selection panel hasn't had specific criteria that are related to that. But it may be a deciding factor between two, hey, we're just running out of money, and what's going in, how many eyes would see this.
Amber, correct me if I'm wrong, we can also, the committee could partially fund grants too, right? Like you can ask for 10,000 and they might say, oh, we want to fund these both, so we're going to do 5 here and 5 here. Like it's possible that you get partially awarded.
Yes.
Yeah. Erica, can you remind me of the site?
Rising Sun.
How hard is it to pull that slide up?
That's the one on San Pablo, the big wall. Yeah.
So you're with the property, but you don't have an artist selected. So and you're looking to make that happen. Awesome. So I want to be proactive about making sure we get that application. So I would love to invite you to the 13th if you could come to the 13th with some parameters for what you're looking for. All the artists that come for the 13th, we'd love to match one of you with that site so that you can submit that application. And you already have a fiscal sponsor with your application. Let's make sure that happens.
You just did.
You just did, yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, we can definitely add that as a resource, and we'll share all the decks that we've been going through. And obviously, you can go on all the websites. Another question?
That's a great question. I don't know if Amber or Rebecca wants to take that. I would say we don't have predetermined sites at this time like the visual arts grant, but there's a lot of sites within Emeryville. There's a lot of spaces and community spaces and vacant spaces and things like that. But I don't know, maybe you guys.
Yeah. So we have a process for that with permitting. It's through a community events permit application. And so it really is around using public space. So a perfect examples, Compound Gallery won a grant last year for an event at Doyle Hollis Park because it's right next door to them, but that made sense. So they went through the process and was awarded a grant, and then they used Doyle Hollis Park as their event for their art event. We've had requests for parking lots. We've had requests for streets. We've had, so blocking off a block, a street party, that type of thing. So there, it's all about finding the site, getting the permission. There's a lot of things that go into depending upon what it is. So if it's a street, PD is involved, fire is involved in the process and stuff like that. But almost want to say sky's the limit as far as that goes. But I highly recommend parks as the activating space that you're referring to, because that's what we want to shed the light on and then celebrate. Yeah, the letter of support would come from me. And that's a great question. So if anyone is interested in like using a space for an event in one of the community grants, you would reach out to the community service department, me, and I would submit the support for that.
Okay. Andrea?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I heard someone say earlier that you wouldn't be able to apply for more than one grant. Was that specifically for the visual arts, or is this for both the community grant and the visual arts? Like, we're looking at an idea that would possibly like be able to apply for both, like both a visual arts grant and a community event. Is that possible?
Yes. So I think what we wanted to clarify is you cannot receive 2 community promotion grants. You can't receive 2 visual art grants, but you might be able to get a visual art grant for an installation. And if there's an event or activity or promotion that is associated with that, I use the example just because I can use it as an example, is a mural of flamenco dancers is going up. You get a visual art grant to do the mural. You have dance and food, that's part of the community promotions grant. They're evaluated separately, but you can refer to each of the activities in each of the other applications.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Aaron, you had a question? No. Okay. Someone else had it?
No, true, but you could apply for a community promotions grant in the second year.
I think we had one more question over here. Was that? Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you can
Absolutely.
fit the budget.
Yeah. So you have up to $10,000 to ask for. Yep.
Historical, yeah. Oh. I see the Historical Society, so I'm going to say, why don't you unmute and ask, and then we'll get the second question. Go ahead.
Hello. Rob Arias, Emeryville Historical Society creative director. One of the things we've long wanted to do for the city is host an exhibition, and I think probably most of the people in this room know that Rotten City is a historical reference DA Earl Warren made about the city, and we wanted to capture that and provide a more detailed explanation on that era of city history. Currently, we hold annual exhibits at the Oakland History Center. Would love to hold one in Emeryville. Fortunately, there's no space for it. The art center obviously is stalled, and there really is no. The city doesn't have a library, so I think the options are to either hold it at the Golden Gate Library, which I know the city contributes to, or possibly the gallery space over at the Emory. And I just wanted to know if either of these would be applicable for this particular grant before we pursue it. But we would need, funding for, materials to exhibit.
I think we've said in Emeryville, but benefiting Emeryville, and we do have service provision out of the Golden Gate Library, so that venue could be proposed. And if you're interested in the gallery at 4509, just like any other private, I mean, it's the city's facility, but it's under management by the Celebration of the Arts. We can help facilitate conversations, or you can reach out, but we can't answer that. But we can certainly facilitate anybody who's looking for a venue. And we haven't mentioned the senior center or the community, the ECCL is the Emeryville Center for Community Life. You've seen them as facades that we said you could put something on, but these are beloved facilities within the city of Emeryville with populations that we would love to get the arts into the hands of and activated too with our seniors. It's a very vibrant, beautiful building, and ECCL is our entire school district. Emeryville and Oakland children are K through 12 are in one building. There's lots of opportunities in both spaces for activities.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the senior center would be a perfect opportunity if they have the amenities to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's something, like, as we said, if you're interested in applying to use that space, you would just reach out to the Community Services Department, look at the dates that you're proposing, make sure there's nothing already planned there, and that could be built into your grant and your budget of renting that facility.
Thank you.
We have previously funded a mural that was a panel that was attached. We have funded murals that are a wall. The budget is limited, so we understand you're probably not going to be proposing a really large wall that takes a long time. So these are considered a little smaller in scope. We need it to be public, and that may or may not require an exterior installation. So that if you have an interior set of work, that's going to take a little more legwork to figure out how that's going to be someplace and how that's going to be. It's likely talking to community services about a facility they're operating and putting it in there.
But it does not have to be murals, just to be
Right.
clear about that. It does not
Still
have
on
to be
this.
murals. I think all types of installations are
Still on the
encouraged
Zoom
here.
meeting.
And we separately, as a city, have a mural program, and there may be future calls for murals. And it may be on some of these sites if, that we end up with 5 of these sites don't have anything on them, they may get rolled up into our mural program, and that might have a higher budget. So I wouldn't think this is the only opportunity. I'm going to go for that big wall, even though I'm going to lose money on it. We want to support you. We want the right resources to match what's being proposed. There will be other opportunities.
Amber, can I just ask, is there any contact information for these sites? I know we're kind of putting it on them to get the letters.
No. I have a list. Every site that we've shown you here, I have a point of contact, and I can provide that to you if you contact me, and my information is on the website.
Great. Yes, sir.
Oh, 5 o'clock, same building, same place, but set up. Yeah, we'll be setting up workable tables in here. So it won't look like this. You won't be focusing us. We'll be focusing on you. Same place, 5, this building. Packard and Therese, are you ready? Hold on a second, Packard. Therese, were you ready? I can't see her, so.
Yes, for the folks that are on Zoom, can you share the slide that introduces the team? So
The
we,
ABG team?
yeah, there and the city team as well, and the consultant. You had one slide, yeah,
There you go.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, but Packard maybe, and then we'll go to Bree. Yes. And I think we had us, yeah. So applications are due by February 28th. The way city processes work, we're going to have a subcommittee that's made up of 2 people from the Park and Rec Committee and 2 people from the Public Art Committee. They will have all the applications. You'll have an opportunity to be interviewed, present your work. Maybe you have additional images. You're doing that interactively. There will then be a review of that and committee a recommendation. For the visual art grants, they will then be recommended to the Public Art Committee. So anything that was recommended to go forward, it won't be interviews, it won't be the everyone who applied, it'll just be those that are recommended. Will go to the Public Art Committee for them to make recommendation to the City Council. Anything that's public art money goes through the PAC before it goes to the council, their advisory to for those funds. That is not the case for the community promotion grants. They're just going to go straight from this selection committee to the council. But just to keep it simple, everything's going to go April 9th to the city council. That would mean we would process contracts by July. So you're going to have the new fiscal year and 2 years from that to get things done. And once you have it done, as you said, Packard, you need to keep it in place for 2 years. And we, certainly we are interested where it's possible that it stays. It stays for as long as it's beautiful. If it's something where the only way you can get this install is telling a property owner that you'll be decommissioning in 2 years, we want you to just be clear with us about what those term is and why that is.
Bree?
Hi, I had kind of 2 questions. For the community grant, I can't seem to find the deadlines. Are they the same kind of deadlines
Yeah,
as,
same deadline.
Yep.
and is there a separate seminar for that?
No.
No, this is it.
And then,
And Tuesday. Yeah.
and when we go to the property owners, is it us like pitching our work? Should we have the full proposal with images, or do they kind of just sign off on a few artists and it's selected by the committee later?
So you asked about community promotion grants. So that's a little different than a visual art grant and what be being proposed. With a visual art grant, we are assuming that when you're talking to property owners, you would have a sketch, a proposal that they would understand, and they're gonna care, And so making sure that that's at some level that there's an expectation of what you've drawn is what they'll get at the end, or how you'll get there from what you've drawn to what you'll have at the end. So if you're like, this is a charcoal sketch and it's going to be multicolored, and are you giving them a paint palette ahead of time? Are you saying, this is my proposal, but I'll be coming back to you, the property owner, and the PAC for the final drawing? And we're flexible about that, but we're probably not okay. And we had some hiccups with the pilot. So we're going to want you to either have a proposal, this is what is going to be on the wall, or this is how I'm going to work with you to make sure that you've approved what I am putting on the wall.
And just to add to that, I think when you reach out to property owners, you can always show previous work,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like you can reach out to any of these sites and say, here's my portfolio. This is the kind of work I create. I don't have my sketch totally fleshed out, but I would love to do something like this on your site. and they may just love your work and be like, great, I'm going to sign this authorization letter, this letter of support now, work on your sketch and let me see it before we move forward. So you don't have to have the full thing dialed in, I don't think. It's really up to you. You know, I mean, if you can create it quickly and you feel confident about it, great. But you can always lean on your body of work and your portfolio.
And the selection committee would also like to see that prior work. That's helpful to bring to the selection.
I also want to say, like, this is easier said than done, but be as creative as possible. They're not matching funds, but if you have a building owner that also wants to contribute to your project, like, it's easier to say yes to a project with momentum. And be creative as far as, like, so I didn't catch your name, but you're doing the film. You could, my understanding is, apply for visual arts funding to help produce the film, and then program funding to do these screening events, right? Like, you could do both. So I think, and again, we can dive more into these on the 13th, but, you know, get creative about your presentations. Oh, okay. Great. Perfect.
Yeah.
Hi, so in case there's no land art locations, I also do digital art that requires screens. They're paintings, but they move. Is there an opportunity to place something like that? And if so, I would have to also include the screen in my budget.
So I think that there's some thought about how we might do something like that within the Rotten City Cultural District, separate from this. I don't think you're going to be able to buy a projector, have a place to install it under this call. But it is something that we are thinking about, how to share local artists' work in the cultural district, and have talked about having a set screen, set projector, or at least a wall with a set projector that's appropriate for outdoor display, and then may have some new opportunities coming for solicitation for what goes into those shows. But we're not yet there, but we are thinking about it, and a lot of exciting things are going to happen in Emeryville in the next 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the selection, the selection panel, sorry, will have appointment times for the received applications. So after we receive applications on February 28th, in the weeks following that, before the PAC meets, there will be selection panels with each application having a set time that works, you know, to come in and talk with those panelists. It's eligible applications. So staff will be screening them for, oh, they're completely missing a budget, or don't have a site, or they didn't sign insurance and, you know, gave us two, you know, but if you've got a complete application, we'll get that to the committee to review.
Okay, should we look at some of these forms in a bit more detail? I know we have, is there any more questions, or should we keep moving forward? Yeah.
No,
10,000.
for the community promotion grants is 10. For the visual art grants, it's 17,500.
Yeah. I also just want to say, I think in public art, it's often really challenging to build up a portfolio if you're new to the medium, or if you're a muralist, or you're somebody that wants to do more innovative things. And this is a really unique opportunity. Obviously, they're not massive budgets, but I think that the city is saying they're open to all your ideas. And so I think this is a really unique kind of gateway to you to build up your portfolio, to do a piece that doesn't have to be totally permanent, but can be an expansion of what you normally do. And you've got a direct line to the property owners in Amber, and you've got a direct line to community sites with Rebecca. So the support's here, and I think it's up to you to just kind of have a unique idea and make a compelling case. And we really encourage all of you to come with those ideas. All right. So this is which form is this?
Budget.
The budget worksheet. Okay, so this is one of the forms that you have to submit. It's a pretty standard budget worksheet. You'll have to fill it out to your best knowledge and submit it with your application. The insurance affidavit that we looked at is just you signing and acknowledging that you understand the requirements. You do not have to get the insurance at this time. Site selection, this is the letter of support from the property owner. The sites are listed. You can also put in your own site. And the visual arts grant attachment E, it's the neighboring address notification. So that's just kind of laying out exactly where the piece is and how it affects the surrounding environment. That's all for the visual arts grant. So those are the 4 documents that you'll have to submit in addition to the other items in the grant application portal. Yeah.
We are okay with that.
Yeah, they can endorse multiple artists. The property owners can. Yeah.
So we don't think you need to do anything before the application, but in your application, we would like you to explain how you will do some kind of outreach to that apartment building. Is that we help you get the HOA and you maybe attend an HOA meeting, or you put flyers in their mailboxes or little cards, or you say, I'm painting these days, please come, here's a sketch, you know. But the PAC has had a lot of conversations about feeling like we opened the hose and just said, go have fun, but there's got to be some limitation when it's city money and it has impacts on how people feel about their community. How do we make sure that we are encouraging and expanding the way that community outreach occurs? I mean, it's an important value for those reviewing this.
Do we need to go through the forms of the community promotions grant? They're the same. Okay, sorry.
So
right.
The key thing to know is the community promotion grants have 3 and the visual art grants have 2 more, and the sketch. So if you're doing both and you're like, oh, I'm done, no, go back to the visual art grant and figure out what those additional ones are. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and our pilot, we definitely found artists that weren't able to get the product that they wanted with the dollars that were from this. So we are happy to be the first money in, we're happy to be the matching money, but to Sharon's point, really make sure that it's either smaller or it's later or it's something that you can use the money in a strategic way to make something really beautiful happen.
Okay. Any other questions or support or info we can give about the visual arts grants or community promotions grants? Yes, Darren.
We think we've given you a pretty tight timeline and that it would be hard to do the cold call. One of the things that's just a reality in Emeryville is that a lot of the buildings that are considered kind of so exciting for maybe a mural or might actually be in redevelopment, might have the building next to it in redevelopment. We have a general plan that says if you have a parking lot, build something on it. The thing about these properties that we've put here is that the property owner and we, the city, don't know of something that's doing that to these. So those questions of feasibility and basic applicability have been answered. It's not that these are the best sites anywhere in the city. It's just that these are where those conversations at least have happened. If you know of a site, you know a property owner, you know what that situation is, and you think you'd be a great partnership, we have no problem with that coming in. We're just worried about the time it would take.
Can I ask on behalf of everyone, could the sites shift throughout the process? Could they get approved based on one site, and if they found a better site later on in the process?
Our process is that what we're taking is a recommendation from a selection committee to a public art committee to a council. And you would kind of have to go back through all of those.
Right.
And I don't think we have a structure to do that. I think, that it is possible that if you had two possible sites and you had those conversations, you could put them both in and you say, I'm not sure which one I'm doing this on, but I'm applying for one installation at either of these, or something like that, I think would be a better way to approach that.
Just to clarify, that's regarding the visual arts grants.
Yeah.
If it was an event, you could get approved for the event and then say we upgraded venues, and that'd be fine.
Yeah, that would be.
That would be considered a change in scope with the contract, so.
But you would.
Yeah.
But
It would be, yeah, it would not be as difficult. No.
Another one?
We are supporting and providing guidance and criteria, that effort, but it is independent committee members representing the community and the committees that they're on that are making those choices. The meeting you attended was the Public Art Committee, which has two representatives that meet with two representatives of the Park and Rec committee, and those four people are the selection committee for this effort. And the question of, you would hope that these folks up here would have more, I think, to the cultural district and the commissions, that conversation is an ongoing conversation, where they are looking for partners with artists to do monthly events and twice monthly larger events. And so there are definitely venues and ways to have those conversations ongoing separate from these visual art grants.
Yeah, let me just address that a little bit more. We are not on the selection panel for these grants, so that'll be done by committee. But as Amber was just saying, we are working on the Rotten City Cultural District program for the next 2 years. And that program, we do have funding for other events, exhibits, activations, and we do have a more able kind of curatorial arm in that process. So we're open to that, and please come on the 13th and let's talk about it more.
If someone has an awesome idea and this committee doesn't approve it, there's other, there's a lot of pieces, a lot of moving parts. So if you have an awesome idea, we just want to make it happen.
And it may be that we have just too many awesome ideas and the scope of funds available or it just can't be stretched. So we part of why we brought them into this conversation is we knew we could perhaps generate more demand than this grant can have, but then we could start the conversation of the next activities. Yeah.
You would need mainly it's the description of the event, but it goes back to the more information, the better that you give the committee so that they can make an informed decision. So if you are considering, let's say, a block party, a map of the block party, where are you starting and stopping the traffic? What kind of vendors are you having? Just a kind of a brief look at what you're considering and offering. Like I said, the more informed information you give the committee, the better decision making they'll be able to. A PDF. There's multiple options in the community services form of the application. It's not as specific as the visual art. You actually can there's different drop downs where you can add extra things in there based on what you're trying to provide. And if you have even more, you can always email it to me as well. And my contact information is on the community services grant site.
Yeah, just in general on the community promotions grants, I think because there's no sketch, a specific visual art sketch, it's up to you to really present and create a clear vision for your idea and articulate that as best and well informed as you can.
If you could go to the drop down under document type, just above that. Yeah, you can pick any of these things. So do you want to describe how do you have flyers of prior events that you've done? Do you want to attach those as example, then providing that,
And there's no limit to how many documents you can add there? Or?
I believe on this application, you can just add and keep
As many as you can.
Right. So there you go. You've got a drop down there where you can just keep adding documents. You've got examples of past work. You've got a written statement. You've got a map of the site. You've got images you want to share. Yeah, all of that. Cecilia.
Is it possible to submit two separate ideas? And if that's the case, do we do it in one application or do we do two applications?
If you are trying to fund two different things and only one of them will be mobilized, depend on an award, there are two applications.
Okay, and then and another. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, if you have, I think this goes. It's been asked. If you are trying to do multiple things within a budget, you can describe the shared activities with one application. So it depends on your intent. If you're like, for example, meaning I could either do it on this building or this building, but I'm only going to do this installation one place, then they're two separate applications. If I'm doing the roll-up door on this building and the roll-up door on this building, that's one application.
Got it. So I've done my previous work at the box shop, but it's been sold, so I don't have a studio in the Bay Area anymore. If selected, would you be able to provide any space for the creation of the art?
I think we don't have that. I mean, there might be networks and there might be people, but the city doesn't have a space to support that. So that's, kind of.
Okay, thank you.
Asking others.
You could try and write it into your budget if necessary. You could say, I need workspace and that costs X amount. Probably puts you at it's not an advantage to your proposal, but.
No, but actually now that I think about my answer to that, the compound gallery does have workspace that can be done from a locker with then shareable space. And so there might be something that's lower cost where you might be able to have access to that.
Did you have a question, Michael? Online?
You're muted.
Did you have a question, Mike?
No.
he just.
Yeah.
I think the complication is the two grants we have are either an event, that's the making and the having and the doing, or we have a visual art grant where you're installing something. If you had a glass case, these works were going to be put in, the making and the preparing and the installing would be a visual art grant. If you have a show that's going to be part of the exhibit with a community, the making and getting ready for that as a community promotion.
Yeah.
No, that sounds very appropriate for the community
Absolutely.
promotion
So,
grant.
yeah, so then you would work with the after-school program supervisor, which you have before in the past, but also you're working, like with your current grant, you were working with the school district and doing the classes through the school too. So both go, yeah, absolutely.
Don't get confused by all the other things we're doing. You're on what you're doing. Stretching or questioning? Very fair, very fair.
Well, we're here and we have some more time. So if there's any other questions or clarity we can give about this program or about the Rotten City Cultural District, we'd love to hear from you.
Perhaps it would be helpful to, we'll take your question, but
Yeah.
we have another half an hour. There's a bunch of food outside. Maybe this is a mingle and mix. Maybe somebody
Yeah.
knows a fabricator and, get to know each other and see what we can make out of it. If you haven't signed the sign-in sheet, please do, because all those future things.
We do have a question online, I
And I
believe.
think there's also a question in the room.
Yeah.
so.
Tim, do you want to go ahead online?
Yes, thank you. I think these questions might be directed to Rebecca. This is in regards to community promotions grant. The first question is program event support letter. Would that be supplied by Rebecca or the city of Emeryville in the case where we're utilizing Emeryville Park space?
Correct. Yeah. So if based on what our previous discussion was, you would request a support from me, and I can send that via email.
Okay. Just one more question about the budget worksheet.
Yes.
If there were performances on separate dates at separate locations, could they be listed somehow on a single budget worksheet, notated in some area on the worksheet, and then we would show the total expenses rather than is that possible instead of separate worksheets?
Yes, you can actually put it all on one, or you could choose to separate. You could take 4 budget sheets for your 4 different dates, and it all totaling together would be the 10,000. It's up to you, whichever's easier. If you are able to come on the 13th, amazing, we can work together. If not, just send me an email. I'm happy to work through that one as well with you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay.
Bud, you had a question? Yeah, the culinary was listed as one of the mediums for sure. I mean, culinary is art. So.
It depends on if you have a site. So it really depends on what you're doing. So if you're cooking in an outside park, there are permits involved with the county and the health department that strike up those types of things that cost a lot of money for permits as well. Whereas if you were to, let's say, rent the senior center, there's a commercial kitchen within that senior center. So so consider that when you're thinking about making yummy food.
I think we have one more question online. Is that right? 3.
Hi. And so in terms of the panel selection and what makes a good application, is it more like about your past work, or does the sketch and the proposal weigh heavier? Is it like tenured artists, or can you explain a little bit about that?
I'll start and pass. This is certainly an effort for the city. Like many cities, we tend to do calls where we say you must have 2 outdoor installations by a public entity, and we are only getting a certain tenure of, to your term, of artist. This is supposed to be a point of entry for anyone that has a body of work that they think can be publicly accessible. And so you are not required to have prior works. But if you don't, then you probably need to have a sketch that can speak to what your vision is. Because people are gonna have to, navigate how they're doing that. I think also, you can show examples. I don't know if you guys have some suggestions about how emerging artists can act enough.
Yeah, I would say in general, don't be afraid to apply if you don't have a huge, background. Obviously, like Amber said, this is a gateway, and it's welcome to everyone. I don't think that we can speak to exactly how the committee is going to evaluate each artist, but I would say in general, great ideas and great artwork are probably gonna win. So I think you have to just put your best foot forward and hope for the best, and not worry too much about what part of your application they're gonna evaluate more. I think just come with your best effort and your best ideas, and we'll be rooting for you.
And generally, leave as little to the imagination as you can. I'm sure you're more creative than the person you're pitching it to, almost always. So, show pictures, decks lead to checks, all that.
Was there another question online, Erica? No? Okay.
Great.
All right.
To those on Zoom, I think we're going to close out the Zoom. To those in the room, I think we're going to move out to networking and food. And those of you who are nearby that are on Zoom and want a good burrito, come on in. We're here till 12.
Please eat the food that's out there. We don't want to take it home.
And there will be food on the 13th if you are waffling and unsure. There will be food.
And thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much.
It's 5 o'clock. Okay. But, breakfast for dinner.